Gentle weather suggested the possibility of an outing. So we went to the stables where my father worked and drew horses, and rode out of the estate with lunches of black bread and salt ham in our back satchels. At first we headed south along the wire road, away from the hills and the town. Julian and I rode ahead while Sam paced his mount behind us, his Pittsburgh rifle in the saddle holster at his side. There was no perceptible threat or danger, but Sam Godwin believed in preparedness. If he had a gospel, it was be prepared. Also, shoot first. And probably damn the consequences. Sam, who was nearly 50 winters old, wore a dense brown beard stippled with white hairs, and was dressed in what remained presentable of his Army of the Californias uniform. Sam was nearly a father to Julian, Julian's own true father having performed a gallows dance some years before, and lately Sam had been more vigilant than ever, for reasons he hadn't discussed, at least with me. Julian was my age, 17, and we were approximately the same height, but there the resemblance ended. Julian had been born an aristo, or Eupatridian, as they say back east, while my father was of the leasing class. His face was smooth and pale. Mine was dark and lunar, scarred by the same pox that took my sister Flaxie to her grave in '63. His yellow hair was long and almost femininely clean. Mine was black and wiry, cut to stubble by my mother with her sewing scissors, and I washed it once a week, more often in summer when the creek behind the cottage warmed to a pleasant temperature. His clothes were linen and silk, brass-buttoned, cut to fit. My shirt and pants were coarse hempen cloth, sewn to a good approximation, but clearly not the work of a New York tailor. And yet we were friends, and had been friends for 3 years, ever since we met by chance in the hills west of the Duncan and Crowley estate. We had gone there to hunt, Julian with his rifle and me with a simple muzzle loader, and we crossed paths in the forest and got to talking. We both loved books, especially the boys' books written by an author named Charles Curtis Easton, whom I would meet when he was 60 years old, and I was a newcomer to the book trade. But I anticipate myself. I had been carrying a copy of Easton's Against the Brazilians, illicitly borrowed from the estate library. Julian recognized the title but vowed not to rat on me for possessing it, since he loved the book as much as I did and longed to discuss it with a fellow enthusiast. In short, he did me an unbegged favor, and we became fast friends despite our differences. In those early days, I hadn't known how fond he was of philosophy and such petty crimes as that, but I suppose it wouldn't have mattered to me if I had. Today, Julian turned east from the wire road and took us down a lane bordered by split-rail fences on which dense blackberry gnarls had grown up between fields of wheat and gourds just lately harvested. Before long, we passed the rude shacks of the estate's indentured laborers, whose near-naked children gawked at us from the dusty lane side, and I deduced that we were headed for the tip, because where else on this road was there to go? Unless we continued on for many hours more, all the way to the ruins of the old oil towns, left over from the days of the False Tribulation. The tip was located a distance from Williams Ford in order to prevent poaching and disorder. There was a strict pecking order to the tip. It worked this way. Professional scavengers hired by the estate brought their pickings from ruined places to the tip, which was a pine-fenced enclosure, a sort of stockade in an open patch of grassland. There the newly arrived goods were roughly sorted, and riders were dispatched to the estate to make the highborn aware of the latest discoveries. Then various aristos, or their trusted servants, rode out to claim the prime gleanings. The next day the leasing class would be allowed to sort through what was left, and after that, if anything remained, indentured laborers could rummage through it, if they calculated it was worthwhile to make the journey. Every prosperous town had a tip, though in the East it was sometimes called a till, a dump, or an eBay. Today we were lucky. A dozen wagon loads of scrounge had just arrived, and riders hadn't yet been sent to notify the estate. The gate of the